Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Vet Chats, where we help veterans share their awesome stories and help make the veteran community a better place. I hope you'll stay tuned to see how this new generation of veterans is continuing their service. Also, Vet Chats is now available on Reach Across America Radio. We will be played Mondays at 9 and Saturdays at 3 p.m. They have a lot of great veteran content that I know you will appreciate. So please be sure to check them out. You can find them at iHeartRadio, the Odyssey app, or at their website. So thank you everyone for joining tonight. We have a very special guest, Tyler Heisey. He is the renowned face behind Back Azimuth Solutions. You may have seen some of his Instagram posts. I know I've shared quite a few because they are so informative. So he's a Marine Corps veteran. He's also in school to be a psychotherapist. So we're going to have a lot of fun picking his brain tonight. I hope you guys will stick around. So I see he has joined. All right, I just accepted. There we go. Hello, Tyler. How are you this evening?
Definitely not renowned, but thank you.
I think so. Absolutely. How was your weekend?
It was good. I'm officially on spring break, so I am beyond excited.
Oh, so you get a mental break from all the heavy lifting.
Nope. I got to up the marketing for BAS now.
That's right. I swear we're one gap opens, something else fills it up, right?
Exactly. How was your weekend?
It was pretty good. I got a good run in today, which I planned on doing it, set my heart on it, and I did it. I haven't ran consistently 4 miles in a long time. So that boosted my mood.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I wanted to thank you again for being here tonight, and let's get into it. Let's start talking about you.
Okay.
So you were in the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
Right? And what was your job? And how old were you when you joined?
I went to boot camp when I was 17, and I was in for 7 years, and I was in the infantry.
Okay, and how was that experience for you?
Profound. I'll put it that way. Great experience, great opportunities. Had the opportunity to go over to the desert, got to go over to the Pacific, so I got to experience a little of everything.
Yeah, definitely. You kind of got the best of both worlds.
Exactly. Yeah.
And you got to see a few different countries when you're in the Pacific, I hope.
Oh, yeah.
Were you did they put you on a ship, or were you stationed over there?
No, I was on a ship.
Okay. So you know the sailor life.
Yeah.
What ports did you hit?
We did Pattaya Beach, Thailand, the Philippines, Singapore, and then I was temporarily stationed in Okinawa during that time.
Oh, that time? The lockdown?
Within the Marine Corps, whenever Marines go island hopping, we tend to stay in Okinawa for a certain period of time as we spots.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I thought you were referring to like that time, which I don't know why. Somewhere I feel like someone's told me that there was a certain time in Okinawa where Marines were pretty much on lockdown, or maybe they still are, or something like that. So what eventually what was behind the decision of you getting out?
So I got medically retired, and that was something that I had to come to terms with when I did get out. But I was 25 when I got out of the service, married, 3 kids. So I had a whole other life ready.
Yeah, and you were kind of banking on staying in, it sounds like.
Oh, yeah. It was 20 years or die trying.
Wow. And how long was the process of getting out? Did they give you a lot of preparation time, or what were the resources like?
For me, I had a lot of resources. I was with a recovery unit. I'm sure the other branches have it as well. Um, but I was in that unit going to different appointments and stuff, and then they ended up putting me on the board to get out. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that must have been hard. And so what was your plan after getting out?
So my plan when I got out of the Corps, besides raising my family, was to initially start my bachelor's. I wanted to open up a rifle range, just like any other freaking Marine. Raise the family. I was working manufacturing jobs in like supervisor roles because that was the easiest transferable skill, leading people.
Mm-hmm.
So I ended up doing that for, I don't know, 4 years, I think, 4 or 5 years until I started my mental decline.
Mm-hmm. So so you didn't feel it when you first separated. It's something that took a while.
I hated the Marine Corps. I didn't want to do anything with the military community. I wanted to raise my family, live the 1950s lifestyle. Don't talk about it kind of thing. But when I got out though, I definitely noticed things were going on. But if I swear, is it okay?
Yes, that's fine.
The mentality I had was that I was a Marine and I wasn't a bitch, so I can shove it down.
Mm-hmm.
Be there for my family. Don't worry about that stuff. It doesn't matter. Tough it out. And yeah, that didn't work out so well.
Yeah, it's almost like so you went from disassociating from the military, and then that stuff it creeps up on you. And I know we wanted to talk about that. We'll get to just ghost your trauma. You can't ghost your feelings. They're
No,
in there.
no.
You can't get them out. So was there some sort of breaking point you had?
I don't know what happened. I was working a split shift, Monday, Tuesday night, Friday, Saturday days. And I was working Monday night at the factory, and I think it might have been a certain song. I can't remember what band it was, but something happened that night. I got home around like 6 a.m, started falling apart. I was like, babe, I'm going back to work. I can't be here. Ended up staying during day shift, working on admin stuff, and then stayed for my second shift. And yeah, it was wild.
Yeah, so you said a song, and it just somewhere in your brain it was like,
Something triggered.
yeah, wow, that is crazy. And how long did this go on, and when did you realize this was something I need to address?
I noticed it probably a year before, but as most people in the military know, that you can just take your emotions and put them on that emotional flak jacket, just tough it out. And when that happened, it turned into 6 months of drinking, fighting, suicide attempts, everything and anything under the sun to throw in the towel. But by the time that I was at the end of that kind of stuff, there was a program, and it still exists here in Chicago, for vets for mental health stuff. I don't know if it's specifically PTSD, but I went there for, I think it was about 3 weeks, and it's all mental health related stuff. So individual therapy, group therapy, we did art therapy. They put us in pretty much like a barracks, which was cool. But that definitely saved my life for sure. Being around other people that were experiencing the same things as I was.
Yes, definitely, especially in that communal setting. I bet you it maybe even like brought you back to that sense of community, because as you got out, you moved somewhere far away, you're kind of isolated. So, what were some things you learned that carried with you and kind of, I mean, I don't know the rest of your story, but, kept you from almost relapsing again?
Um, if I'm going to suck at anything, I'm going to suck at killing myself. My kids weren't enough for me. It's a sad thing to say, but it's true. But when I was going through that stuff, I was around other people that, and we get it all the time in the military. I was around other guys and girls that were more badass than me, or ones that didn't experience as much as I did. And being able to share my story with this dude that oh, why am I here? He's gone through so much more than me. Being able to share parts of my story and watch the light bulb turn on in his head, I was like, wow. And then coming out of that, I realized that I was, ignorantly speaking, I was selfish. I cared more about my family than myself. Mm-hmm. And like today, if I want to be a good father, I have to be a good Tyler. Especially since I'm raising my kids. I think you have kids, you're raising your kids. So we have to be in the right headspace and timing if we want to raise them.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like being a parent adds such a, you feel like you're putting them first by putting them first, but you need to take care of yourself, because if you're not, and I've slowly learned this the past year, if I'm not at my best, if I'm not trying everything I can to make sure I'm mentally healthy, then in reality, I'm not putting them first by putting them first in another sense.
Good job.
Yeah. So, what was the point where you were like, I want to do this for a living. This is something that I want to share with others.
Ever since I got out, there was a lot of friends of mine that were dropping. And when I got out of that program, and I'm keeping all of the juicy stuff condensed because it's irrelevant. When I got out of the program, I ended up getting a divorce because there was a lot of issues that ended up burning the bridge, and it was better for both of us and for the kids for that decision. And with that decision being made, going back to my hometown, I started getting more involved with the veteran community, and with people dropping, because it's been its own pandemic for years. Mm-hmm. I've just gotten over that period of time. I got more involved with the community, and more people would talk to me, and I'd end up sharing my story, and it would help people. And through all of the growth that I had to go through, all of the vulnerability that we hate, I was able to realize that a lot of us, like I say on the posts all the time, we're all on this patrol called life together because we all deal with this shit. Mm-hmm. So it was through the Etch-a-Sketch of starting over where it really solidified for me.
Yeah, you're like, this is what I need to do. And I bet you also, the more, because you're going to school for it, do you find the more you dive into it, do you feel like there's at any point you've learned it all, or what is that like?
Oh, I love it. It's no, it's an ego check for sure. And there's opportunities for me to write about papers and just to be like, oh, okay, I gotta deal with that one.
Yeah.
I didn't know that term. Okay. But no, I love it. It's hard. It's also easy at the same time. But it's great too, because in my cohort, my group of peers, I'm the only one from the military, and I'm the only guy too. So it provides additional layers of perspective for me, being the dude that used to sit in a depression class and scoff at someone that was struggling because they heard gunfire over the radio, where now I have to work with my peers who don't have any of those juicy core memories that our community does. And I get to practice the skills I'm learning.
Yeah, that definitely would bring in new perspectives as you do to them. Do you feel like personally, is there like more levels you're reaching? I don't know if I could say levels because it's so much more nuanced than that of your personal growth. Like you think you learn something or you stay on track with something, like I can't go any higher, but then maybe you'd learn something in class. Like how do you feel about that?
As it relates to my life,
Mm-hmm.
I will never be a subject matter expert. That's impossible on any topic, even parenting. Um,
That's impossible.
yeah. As it relates to academia, it's, hopefully this makes sense. It's in depth, but it's surface level. So like, for example, the DSM, which is all of the diagnoses that people can get. We did 16 weeks on that course.
Wow.
You're not going to understand the left to right of it in 16 weeks. There's so much. So it's humbling and exciting, and I have to practice patience a lot too.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I bet, definitely. So speaking of the diagnosis, I wanted to ask you about this because I've been kind of looking into this a little more, and how we are diagnosed with something, but maybe at first we don't feel like it matches our reality, or maybe we're diagnosed with something and we feel like we have to fit that narrative. How do you feel about that and putting those diagnoses or labels on people, patients?
This is a very, very wide pendulum of a question. For anyone that's watching this right now or will watch this later, I am not a therapist yet. I'm still in school. It's just my perspective. As it relates to the diagnosis itself, I see a lot of different perspectives. Through the clinical sense, it helps the therapist conceptualize how they're going to work with their client. So if I was a therapist and you were my client and this was your diagnosis, I would be able to build the treatment plan for your presenting problems. The medical field in general, like the entire umbrella, is very money focused. That's a big problem I have with it, but that's with a lot of things in the country. So it's hard when, from what I'm learning, you sometimes have to deal with like insurance. So they might want something quickly and you might not have time to give them something accurate, and you have to be careful that you don't overdiagnose or underdiagnose. For me though, I believe for the diagnoses that I have, they are not mine, if that makes sense. Like I feel that I don't have post-traumatic stress disorder. I have experiences and issues that can happen every now and then. And that DX, that diagnosis, is for the other person when they're working with me. Mm-hmm. I believe our community, and we are extremely diverse. So I'm going to carefully say this. Our community has a tendency to take my perspective, have a perspective of, hi, I'm Tyler. I'm a combat veteran with PTSD, where they identify as it. Mm-hmm. And people that push it away. They don't want anything to do with it because it's a label. Yeah. Did that answer it? I'm trying to keep it digestible.
Yes. Yeah, that was pretty clear, and it kind of brought up, it's so interesting how some people will really identify it, and, they will put that in their profile. They will, not when they meet someone, but maybe like they would almost lead with that, or, they feel like it explains them.
And that's where you can, and that's why I said a big pendulum, because that's where you can go with, are they scared of starting a new chapter in life and letting that go? Is that the only thing that's keeping them back? Are they holding on to that for some other deeper reason that requires those conversations with the professional of why they're holding on to that piece of their identity? I mean, there's so much room for interpretation. Thus, the reason I'm in school.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And I feel like when you're going to therapy, you're kind of seeking an explanation almost. You want to be able to explain your experiences and why. And here's like my second follow-up question. Does the diagnosis, and you can take this however you want, but does it take responsibility or accountability away from ourselves and our actions?
I think that's situation dependent, honestly. Like all of my posts, and I'm not saying that to keep it easy, but like all of my posts have the capability to be misinterpreted, because everything that I share online, that's never advice for you as a person, because I don't know you. That's mass information for people to, hey, I get that. Okay, maybe I should take a picture of that with my phone and go find a therapist and be like, hey, I'm dealing with this. What was the question again?
Okay, I'm trying to ask this without it being personal or just kind of generally
go for it.
drive the conversation, but how does diagnosis take responsibility or accountability away from us? Like, for example, I've seen some people explain their kids' behaviors. Oh, they're diagnosed with ADHD, that's why they're doing that. Something like that. How does it take that accountability away? Or is that a helpful tool, or is it hurtful?
I personally believe it can be helpful based on, and I'm trying to say this correctly and respectfully, that can be beneficial for someone with like bipolar. For me, especially when I was dealing with PTSD, it's not a reason for me to, it's not an excuse to be an asshole.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that's the easiest way to explain it.
Yeah. I think it's a kind of complicated thing, but I think it's kind of an interesting a topic to talk about. Oh, Dr. Pam says diagnosis does not, oh no, that's not Dr. Pam, I'm sorry. PTSD, broken sword, diagnosis does not take accountability away. We are all responsible for actions. Okay, yes. Yeah, I just want to bring up, I thought it'd be interesting to talk about. But another thing I wanted to talk about, how can I make this transition? Like when we get out, when you were telling your story about getting out and you were kind of pushing down your feelings, you were kind of numbing yourself. How can we as veterans, how can we unnumb ourselves after having to push down feelings to put the mission first for so long?
Number one, easier said than done, except the fact that we're out. Easier said than done. We have to understand that if we want to feel happy, if we want to feel the love of another person, feel fulfillment, whatever, like if we are trying to suppress sadness, we're shutting the rest of them down too. And like the one that I shared recently with like all the different metaphors about boot camp and the schools and stuff, these are things that we're taught a certain way in the service for a reason, and we have to go through a new process afterwards where we might need to learn what sadness feels like, or being able to verbalize our feelings, because that's something I never did. in the service, and learning how to recognize those emotions and be able to talk about them, to being able to see if we're having crazy thoughts, like, no, my ex-wife's not an asshole, I'm just grieving because of a divorce, as an example. But yeah, I feel like, and I believe wholeheartedly, especially with how the country is in its current state of affairs, that's my only comment on that. Everybody should talk to somebody within the professional setting, because our childhood, for one, plays into our adulthood. And a lot of people, to include myself, used to think that was ridiculous because I thought I had a perfect childhood. But going through this stuff, it's like, okay, that might not be the case.
Yeah. Yeah, you never know when you look at things or when you explain something to someone else, or even just out loud. You never understand the reality of it, and I think a lot of people find that through therapy as well. So kind of off the topic of unnumbing, that kind of like trying to push it down, and one of your posts was talking about how we can't ghost our trauma, and why can't we just say, see you later, I'll deal with you tomorrow, or I'll deal with you when I get sober?
Because our experiences are always with us because we live them, and we can't block a phone number from that juicy core memory. And I did amazing at shoving that stuff down, trying to ignore it, but it came back with a vengeance. And it's hard, and it sucks. It sucks to be uncomfortable and to talk about things that might embarrass you or make you feel like a POS or a failure or whatever. I mean, no one wants to talk about that stuff. It's uncomfortable. But besides the fact that we all deal with it, having the courage to talk to someone that's not going to be, everyone's judgmental, first of all. We're all human. Someone that's going to hold the space respectfully and empathetically for you to discuss your experiences, and then they're going to talk to you, learn about you, provide you education on things, learn about your thoughts and where they come from, how to challenge them, how to instill therapeutic lifestyle changes, like going to the hazing yourself with 4 miles of running. That's ridiculous. Yeah, but that's why, like, for me, I always talk about the fundamental habits, the foundation of our life. Like, I obsess more with my sleep than I do talking to my friends, because it's a priority in my life. Theoretically, I would be in bed in 2 minutes right now. But
No, same. Definitely. I'd already be sleeping.
but that's the thing. And like, a lot of us, probably all of us, have been raised from individuals from older generations that have thought differently. I mean, I could operate without sleep for a couple days. I still could. I just don't want to. And it's all at the most basic level, remove trauma, just mental health, just living. We have to sleep. We have to eat. We can't eat nonsense. We got to move our body. We have to have hobbies. We have to have a social network, even if it's people that we're talking to on here, and not just doom scrolling, because that's not connecting. So many little fundamental things that is the same as making sure your uniform's squared away, or that you can cover down during drill or whatever. It's all the little things that make the bigger things happen. And we forget that.
Yeah. Yeah. All those little things that we thought were so pointless, they're actually they're so beneficial,
Mhm.
you know, and when you get out, you're so excited to drop it all. But then I think you'll have that full circle moment. There's no timeline on when it will happen, but
No,
you'll have that moment where you're like, okay. I see the value in these little things. Yeah. Yeah. Dang it, I had something that you said, and I was like, all right, we can go there. Okay, so you mentioned all those other things, and I'm curious about uh, your training. Do they talk a lot about kind of the whole health, or do you feel like they over focus on the mental health?
I mean, we haven't touched a lot about like fitness. I mean, diet, fitness, it's all mentioned in there, but so far, no. We did a lot. We did a lot of different things about the brain, and I know that sounds really childish. We did a lot of stuff about the brain. We were learning about psychopharmacology, the different medicines, because if I have a client that comes in, I need to know what they're on. I need to know what it's doing. So that was cool to learn all those cool sciencey words. But
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And there's so many of them out there. And that's another controversial topic that I
go for it. Send it. Send it.
okay. So how do you feel about maybe just the reliance on medicine? Even in the veteran community, I know, you know, they're kind of getting the VA's for the most part getting away from that prescribing. But how do you feel about that transition?
I think it makes a lot of money, so they're always going to push it. I think it helps without a doubt. I think medicine, of course, case by case basis, it can help an individual. I believe that a lot of my early experiences with the VA, they treated it like a band-aid. Here, take this for 20 years, where a lot of it can be addressed with other things,
Mm-hmm.
like moving your body, not eating Pizza Hut, talking to someone. There's people that have to be on medication. There's people that benefit from medication. A lot of people take it because it works.
And
Me, me, never again.
no,
I will,
and
I will hire 17 therapists.
and um and why is that? And what was your experiencing? And I apologize, this is too personal, but coming off of it, because I feel like I've heard stories where people are on it for so long that coming off of it is almost impossible and might even re-trigger some responses.
I will say that I personally was on so many different things that were working to fix something else. Um, and I felt like a zombie. And when I was going through those tough times, I pretty much cold turkeyed everything, which I know contributed to the problem. But coming out of all of that, though, like for me, I don't need at this point in my life to take anything for that space. Um, Everybody else, I don't know. I'm not smart enough to talk about that one.
Yeah, yeah, it is a very complex issue, but I'm also curious from the academia side is do they talk about like the goal is to eventually get people off of medicine? Is that openly talked about?
Maybe through psychiatry,
Okay.
but personally, through the eyes of the country, I don't think so because it's a huge moneymaker.
Mm-hmm.
And there's people that don't want to take meds. There's people that want to take meds. There's people that want to make millions off of them. It's a very dirty subject.
It is. It is, and it just gets dirtier the more you go into it. And the only reason I know a little bit of it is because I took medical sociology in college, and it kind of piqued my interest, and I started trying to keep up with it more and more. So my next question is, as you've been working with the veteran community, what are you finding that are some of the biggest misconceptions about therapy, or what is really keeping veterans from seeking professional help?
Number one, money,
Mm.
if it's not VA. Two, the VA, period.
Okay.
Just the cloud around the VA. The stigma, the ego, I'm not going to open up. Or my personal favorite, especially going through school, is they wouldn't get it. The therapist, like, why would I talk to some 23-year-old kid about my problems? That's the one I love the most. And I think I've posted on that one before. Because, like, even for me, when I have a client that doesn't have Instagram, we'll just say that, they'll know that I came from something. They'll tell them I served, but a 23-year-old kid or myself have the same training for the most part, and we can still address whatever the problem is the same, and people will match. If I was to assume, people would naturally open up to me quicker because I look like a vet. I shave my head. I got hand tattoos. I got an RBF. I fit the bill.
Drinking out of the mug, we assume it's coffee.
Yeah. But that's the thing. When people are like, they wouldn't get it, it doesn't matter. Because I want to work with the community through this and then through therapy. But through the therapeutic setting, though, I'm never going to share my story. I might hint at certain things when building that relationship, but at the same time, I don't, as of right now, I have no interest in working with a attorney or some pilot, some civilian, to put it ignorantly. And the reason why I say that is, like, I have no idea what it's like to be the CEO of Google or to be a nurse. But we all have the same problems, even though the origin story can be different. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And that kind of piques another question. Do you feel like a lot of your classmates or peers, do they have a target clientele that they're wanting to work with?
My best friend in my group wants to work with us, which is great. And she's a civilian. So I'm like, you get to be like an interpreter. You get to bridge both worlds. The rest of them, I don't think so. I think they're more focused on like substance or trauma or like sexual trauma specifically, like something like that.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. And so, how have you started your coaching business, or how does that kind of play into what you're doing now?
Well, full transparency, I haven't really done the coaching stuff lately because I've been busy with school. That's why I haven't marketed it. I started the page to help people. I started the degree. I started the page. Why not help people? And one thing I always said when I was pushing the whole coaching thing was, I'm not going to touch trauma because I'm not trained on trauma. Like, still, I'm not trained on some of those things. And the last thing I'm going to do is potentially put someone in a worse situation, because that's extremely unethical as a person. and a future professional. So I started it. I started the coaching piece, and when I started the page, and I was working on a lot of different things like a sense of purpose, building healthy habits, shifting your perspective, various transitional things getting out that people were stuck on. And then as I was pushing out the information, working with people, I was starting to share more mental health things because of the things I was learning. And a lot of people were eating it up, which was really weird because I felt like I was canoeing upstream, navigating around all the other cliques within the military, like the MOS specific communities or like the leadership pages and stuff. I felt like I was the only one that was like swimming upstream on this, trying to get around them to make sure people are seeing this mental health stuff. And as it was growing, and as I was connecting with those people too, I was like, okay, this is really actually incredibly important. That needs to get out. So I kind of just dove headfirst into it. And as I slowly became smarter, I slowly incorporated more things into it. And like I said, I don't market the coaching stuff a lot right now just because I don't care. I like helping people. And if this is what's working for them, that's fine. When I have the time, like spring break, I need to come up with some marketing stuff for that so I can help people. But yeah, it's been awesome, and at the same time kind of sad because I wish I had this page back then. But it's cool. It's cool to see all these people, I don't know how else to say it, shiving with the stuff that I'm putting out there. It's great to see that we're looking for it, and if it's me that's doing it, okay.
Yeah, and you are nailing it on the content, because I would say when you look at it, it just looks so tough. It looks so militant. And then when you start reading,
Talk about your feelings.
Yeah. Yes, it's talking about your feelings. It's talking about being vulnerable, raw emotions. And it's just almost disguised in this using the military colors. So those of you who are listening only, I definitely go check out Tyler's page, because it's just incredible how he's really tied mental health with that military persona.
And I try to keep it all on the same frequency that we all understand. I don't want to read psychobabble because I'm going to be like, how's that going to apply to me? So I try to take all these topics, and I'm assuming you've had at least one MRE in your life.
I have not.
Wow. Okay. This call's done then. On the back of the MRE, it says to heat it on a rock or something. So I always try to make the post on a rock or something. Easy. Easy things to digest and understand. That's not big words, super fancy, and communicate it with my people, my family. So
yeah, and like you said earlier, it's very open-ended. It's something that you could apply, like different people could apply to their life. It's not really targeted at one specific issue that people would have. So yeah. I know I appreciate those posts, and a lot of people do, and I see people share them all the time, and I'm like, I know him.
Yeah, no, it's been a really wild ride, especially since I started the page in November of 21.
Wow. Yeah, so this has been building for a while.
Yeah.
And I got one last question for you. So are you going to leave us all without this mental health knowledge when you graduate? Are you planning on keeping this page going, or do you think you need to move on to the next thing?
No, I will be the forever Overwatch for the community. I am going to change the name of it. I already have a name picked out and everything. I started a new page just to save the name. But it's going to be good though.
I think I might have found it.
DM me then. Don't say it on here. But when I'm done with this degree, I will continue this page as I go for my second license, because there's 2 in this state, to open my own practice. During that time, I'm going to add a lot more to this, because the community needs this stuff. And as more pages come up that are talking about these things, the more of a squad that I can get, where we can all attack these topics together for everybody. And I intend on becoming a doc afterwards. I want to go the whole ladder. But yeah, I have a lot of really awesome things that I'm planning for all of us down the road. It just takes time.
Yes, it does. Where can people find you? Is the best place to look for you on Instagram, or is there other ways?
Yeah, don't call me.
Definitely don't call.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, I never use Facebook. People can find me on LinkedIn if they want. Instagram for this, for BAS, they can get me on here. Yeah, and then if anyone needs to get a hold of me for anything, they can just DM me.
Sounds great. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Tyler, for joining us tonight on Vet Chats. We really appreciate having you and your knowledge. And I want to thank everyone for joining the live. I loved reading your comments. Sorry we didn't read too many of them out loud. Or if you're listening to the replay or on the radio, thank you so much for listening. All right, Tyler, I hope you have a good one.
You too.
Take care.
Bye-bye.